We all know that real estate has created more millionaires than any other industry on the planet. We also know that it has created a lot of heartache due to mismanagement, overborrowing, and just simple life events that happen to all of us. Welcome to the Cash Flow Pro podcast. My name is Casey Brown, and I am your fearless leader. And although we might be bourbon sipping and at times foul-mouthed Southerners, we will always do our best to be honest, straightforward, and due diligent with all of the information we pass along to you. Welcome to the show. Hey there, and welcome to Cash Flow Pro, your daily podcast and investment channel. We want to welcome Tim Krause. Tim was just sitting here telling me, my mind's running 1,000 miles an hour because this guy's got some stuff set up that's just unbelievable. Unbelievable how due diligent and how just everything he's got is systemized. So I apologize for talking slow, but my mind is just a little bit blown. So anyway, Tim, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, Casey. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Yes, sir. We are so glad to have you. And Investments Crafted is Tim's company. So I want to make sure that we get that out there so that everybody kind of knows what we're talking about and what direction we're going here. So Tim was just kind of showing me some of the systems and some of the things that he does when it comes to like acquisitions of properties and really the entire study of everything leading up to the acquisition was what really just blew my mind. So anyway, so Tim, I want to before we get started in the investments and the real estate part of your life, why don't you tell us a little bit about your backstory and maybe like, where we all have that moment where we were like, huh? Real estate exists or real estate investing exists. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that and how that looked when you first got started?
Yeah, so for me, it's a little bit different in that I grew up a little bit in real estate. My Opa, my grandpa on my dad's side, he had about 30 or 40 doors somewhere right in there when we were growing up. So I actually worked for him as a handyman for a long time. My parents did a real estate business a few different times. Their last one that they tried was in 05 to 08. Flipped, I believe, about a dozen or 14 houses in that amount of time. And I actually got my real estate license in 07. And then I saw it all fall apart in 2008. And I basically said, you know what? I'm not doing real estate. No way. Just completely done with real estate because I was like, man, it just wasn't fun. Also fixing and flipping, which I still do not do. I had no fun fixing and flipping. Like, that's what we did for my teenage years.
Yep.
The first properties my parents flipped, we did a fair amount of the work, and then as you grow up a little bit more in the business, then you start hiring contractors for more and more stuff because, the time is very expensive. But yeah, I mean, the number of floors and walls and everything we painted, I mean, it's funny, I consider it a blessing, but I could hardly smell bad smells anymore because of the number of crappy houses that I've been in. I consider it a benefit. But yeah. And then that 2008, all that stuff kind of blew up and everything, and I said, screw this, I'm not doing real estate ever again. And I went and I did a bunch of different jobs over the next, actually a little bit before them, but over the next 7 or 8 years, I did like 8 or 9 jobs. I did a total of 11 jobs over 11 years from when I was 18 to 29, but one of those was being a realtor in that mix. And so then a bunch of different things. Started doing video production on the side with my friends because I really enjoyed that. My friends started skateboarding, and I didn't like to fall, so I grabbed a camera and I would film them skateboarding. Yep. So then did that for church, and then eventually started a business doing that. I joined some really good networking groups local to me, and really got some good advice from people who'd actually done business before, who'd actually been there, which is a really invaluable piece of information you can get from someone who's actually done it. So did a video business full time for 3 years because I got a back injury. One of my jobs, I worked in an ambulance for 3 years, making $24,000 a year. Yeah. So now it's funny. Now my average deal is a little bit more than that.
But yeah, I was going to say it's those. Yeah.
Yeah. it's crazy how time flies.
Yeah.
So did that. Did my video business for 3 years. I got involved with a real estate show. We shot 50 episodes of the show. We interviewed a lot of realtors, and I got flown around the country for the real estate show, and then for the video business in general, I got flew around the world twice. Once to Bosnia, once to Iceland. Very cool. I didn't make a whole lot of money. I made more than I made in the ambulance, so that was great. I was really grateful for that. And most of my video work, about 40%, was real estate professionals. It wasn't like houses or listings or all this
Yeah.
stuff. It was like the fix and flippers, the commercial guys, the people buying self-storage, the people buying malls and putting self-storage units in there, the people buying RV parks, mobile home parks, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And one time I was down doing a video job down in California, and I was out to dinner, and there were kids my age, like, younger than me, who were just killing it in real estate, like flipping houses up in Seattle, Bellevue, just doing really good. And we were out to dinner, and I remember feeling kind of pissed off because like they were buying expensive stuff, and I was like, and when I came to the bill time, I looked at them like, there's no way I could pay for any of this stuff. Like they had like tomahawk steaks, which I didn't know what a tomahawk steak was before then.
I bet you do now, though.
I do now. Yeah. But they got like, they'll take like 3 or 4 for the table, and then all sorts of other stuff. It was nuts. And I remember telling to a real estate guy who I did video work for, Tarl Yarber, who runs a big. He's on Bigger Pockets every once in a while, and he runs a big convention that I filmed a few times. I was like, man, I really wish I could do this real estate stuff, but I just don't have a passion for it. And he's like, what does that have to do with it? Like, it's a vehicle to get you somewhere that you want to go. Like that's what it is. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So I eventually bumped across land investing. I was researching mobile home parks, and then I bumped across land investing, and I laughed first time I heard about flipping land, because I'd filmed the largest real estate conference in the Pacific Northwest for the past 2 years. And we had multiple cameras running on multiple stages for hours. And so I had to review all the footage. So like I watched dozens of hours of real estate education from these people, and no one ever mentioned this at all.
Yep.
And then so that's when eventually I had a little bit of confidence to start tiptoeing back into real estate from seeing everything fall apart. I mean, my parents lost everything. They lost their house. They had creditors calling. My dad wouldn't answer his phone if he didn't know the number. Like that was just like a normal way of 2010 life.
True.
And I got married in 2009, so like that was just like kind of growing up, going through all that.
Yeah.
So I bought my first piece of land for $1,800, and I sold it for $3,000 in Arizona, and then just started going from there. And I've now sold 50. I think current number is 53 pieces of land.
Wow.
So it's been coming on 2.5 years
now,
since I started.
I guess one of the things that I noticed, I'm going to say about 4 or 5 years ago, a lot of banks started they wanted to start reducing their risk in their raw land only deals by making the borrower bring more money to the table. So basically they're saying, hey, we're only going to loan 60% LTV on a vacant piece of property or raw land. So you need to either bring 40% equity, 40% cash, whatever the scenario was. And so, there is a little more risk in just raw land, but tell us a little bit about like how, without getting into anything proprietary necessarily, as far as whether or not it's a secret or something of yours, how do you kind of go around? Let's start with geography. And you say, hey, I focus on land here, here, and here. And then how do you basically take us through your process?
Yeah. So one super valuable thing you have to figure out is, what is the value that you add? So, I typically do not hit the hottest of the hottest markets.
Okay.
Right now, Texas, Florida, Idaho, those are some very hot ones right now.
Okay.
Because one of the value adds that we add in buying and selling land is usually land can take a long time to sell.
Yep.
But in these super, super hot markets, land is selling very, very quickly. So there's less of a value add opportunity. I'm not saying people don't make money in those markets. 100% people do.
Yep.
You can move down in price point. You could, move out in complexity. You can move to properties that have more hair on them. There's value to be had there.
Sure.
But like, so one of the states I did quite well in, I'm willing to say because I hit it recently and I'll probably be a while till I hit it again, is Ohio actually.
Wow.
I did quite well in Ohio. Yeah. I had a few record breakers over there.
Wow.
A 1 acre piece of industrial property and a 20 acre piece of residential property with a old substation for AT&T server building.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was literally like a 30 by 30 cement shack that had some old racks in there.
Okay.
The family had never ever been to. Like the mom owned it and she passed away, and the family never been there. So,
what did you're talking about the AT&T shack? I mean, what was the value add move there specifically, just on that one?
Well, so the value that I add to the situation, because 95% of the time, I do not change anything in the land.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't change anything in the land. What I do is I give people the problem that I fix is that in land in general, most agents, especially for low dollar land, which most of the land I deal with is sub $150,000 retail, most agents won't want to deal with land. Just try yourself. Call up 3 or 4 real estate agents who aren't your friends and tell them, I want to list a $45,000 piece of land or a $50,000 piece of land and see how many of them call you back.
Yep.
Hey, I have a 5 acre piece of land. I think it's worth about $45,000. Would love it if you list it for me.
Yeah.
No one. The chances of getting 0 call back is very, 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 very high.
So you bring the close fast cash. Here it is.
Yes.
Let's do it. Let's make it happen. So your value add is on the buy side.
Yes, it's on the buy side for sure, and also like 65 to 70% of the pieces of land that I have bought have been listed in the past 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
So they were listed before, but then the agent either does such a poor job because I use agents in my business. I use them for evaluation. I use them for local expertise. So I'm not necessarily anti-agent.
Okay.
But the way that the current system is structured, it's hard for agents to make good compensation on a $50,000 sale of a piece of property.
Yep.
Because the most they could charge is 5% aside, even though technically there's no legal limit.
That's right.
Realtor.
If you're talking about $5,000 divided by 2, $2,500, and $2,500 to drive 20 miles one way or whatever the case is for a piece of property that might sit on the market for 2 years.
And that's before brokerage splits, and that's before taxes, if you've capped or whatever. That's before all those things. And it's like, I can go sell this house over here and make, X amount of thousands of dollars, know. So that's where the value add in my situation comes in.
And that's if somebody doesn't beat them up on that 10% commission and say, hey, I bet you won't do it. I'm only going to pay 8 or I'm only going to pay whatever. Yeah,
my business exists solely because there is that hole in the market.
Yeah.
There was that little hole, and that little hole I'm able to fit in there and do make a nice little income for myself.
Sure.
And for my investors in that. So, but yeah, so that is the value add piece that I do. I make it an easy sale for people. I'm starting to do bigger pieces of land somehow. They haven't sold yet, but I have a few big ones that I'm going to put up on the market. Could be fun here. The numbers are getting quite fun. Some of those ones in Ohio, by the way, just for fun numbers. So this is the funnest part about land, is that if done well, you can make good money at land. You have to be willing to put in enough work to get the job done.
Okay.
The industrial property, I bought it, and this isn't just like, I've never bought property from someone who I felt was mentally compromised.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, right now we're dealing with someone who has had a recent medical issue. I think they've had a stroke or something. And we are, as my acquisition person talks to her, she's like, hey, she's a little bit confused. I'm like, cool. Make sure her family knows everything what's going on.
That's right.
Make sure her kids know what's happening, and ask her about, hey, do the kids know? Are the kids on board with this? We want to make sure everyone's on board with the situation.
Yep, because you don't want to get sued later.
Absolutely.
Well, you don't
So
want to take advantage of somebody either. So yeah.
yeah, totally. And it's just like most of the people that we buy properties from, they're well-to-do.
Yeah.
Most of them, the difference between selling it to you for 18 or selling it for 30 on the market is not worth all the headache and all the things they have to learn.
Yep.
So the one of them in Ohio, I bought it actually through a lawyer. I bought 2 properties where literally the client just hands my 1-page contract to the lawyer and tells the lawyer, talk to this guy to me, sell the property. And then I talk to the lawyer the whole time.
Yep.
So I've done that a few different times. And that property, what I bought for $18,600.
Okay.
And I sold it for $65,500.
Wow.
So somewhere in there. So it was like a mid-40s.
Yeah.
Mid 40s profit, which is like 2 years of work in the ambulance.
Yeah, that's right. 2 years working ambulance, you made one little deal. I mean, and that was just a little industrial lot. What about what about the other one?
The 20-acre one I actually bought for about the same amount of money, about $18,000. I sold that one for $72,000, I think. I have not broken yet the $50,000 mark profit on one deal. Now, also, like percentage-wise, land is just bonkers. Like to buy a property for $18,000 and sell it for $70,000, it was that several times the purchase price of the property.
Yeah.
That's that happens sometimes. I'm aiming to hopefully double my money, but then I have properties that have problems with. So far I've lost money on one. I have one other problem property that I'm currently dealing with that could be a fairly substantial loss.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of it is what it is there.
Well, yeah, and so how do you go about, like, obviously you're saying that these are, so this is in Ohio. Now, where do you live at? What's your home?
Washington State.
Okay, so you're in Washington State. So you're basically all the way across the country from a plot of land in Ohio, a 1-acre plot of land in Ohio. Now, how does Tim find out that this 1-acre plot of land can even be bought? Like, what's the process there? And obviously, I saw your Trello board and how you had everything laid out and different. You obviously have that systemized thought process. So I'm assuming that it's probably some systemized manner that brings these deals to you. But I'd like to possibly hear a little more about that, maybe.
For sure. So I do direct mail. I send off about 10,000 units of mail a month. So that's what I do right now. My mail is scheduled for the next 3 months, 2.5 months. So I did some work a little while ago. I trained my brother how to do my pricing. I have him price them for me because we send off for my land. We send off what's called blind offers. For my commercial deals, which I'm getting into, we send off what are called ranged offers, which I'm still experimenting with those. We'll see how they go.
Sure.
Because the blind offer, I don't do very much sales. It's more just getting the message out there. And if it resonates with someone, the price, then we're able to move forward. Or if I'm in the ballpark, then we're able to move forward. Because I'm not that huge on the sales. I got to get better at it. I'm more on the marketing.
Yep.
So I will choose. So how I get to it is I made a macro, which is a computer program that I use to scrape Redfin.
Okay.
And so I scrape Redfin data for land because the greatest thing about land is no one cares about land.
Yeah.
The greatest thing. So there's no database for land that's decent. Priced has a pretty good one, but there's no database that I want. So then I'm able to tell by each zip code through Redfin how many pieces of land have sold in the past year, how many pieces of land are currently for sale, and what's the average price of each of those numbers.
Yeah.
Then I'm able to make a demand, just a months of supply demand calculation. Okay. I do a lot of Excel. I really enjoy the Excel stuff. I recently learned what queries were in Excel, and they are very, very powerful. Yeah. Then I basically I use that to pick zip codes. So when I mail Ohio, or Washington, because I live in Washington, I mail a whole state at one time, but I will only mail the zip codes that I like. So I might mail 100 different zip codes.
Okay.
I'll go to my data provider. I currently use DataTree, and I'll just put all my zip codes in there and my criteria, which my criteria aren't much. Have they owned the property for a while? That's pretty much it. And then is the piece of land big enough to build on legally for that state?
How do you know if it's what about chain of title kind of stuff? I mean, obviously you run into some places where people are like, "Oh yeah, I'll sell," and then you run in, and all of a sudden you're starting to make a deal, and you find out there's a rogue sister somewhere that raises all matters of hell because it's in the family and she doesn't want to sell. And I mean, I'm just kind of going off there on stuff that I ran into anyway.
Oh, for sure. That does happen. I mean, for the most part, I don't deal with a whole lot of that because either everyone's on board or everyone's not. If they're not on board, I'm not going to stand around and convince anyone to get on board.
Sure.
We've had family members kill deals all the time. I'm an acquisition person with her inbound calls and then also with following up with people. Does about 25 to 30 phone calls a day.
Oh wow.
On average in there. So
yeah, so one deal falling to the wayside is not a huge.
Yeah, I
issue.
kill deals every day.
Yeah.
Now,
how many deals are you doing a year? Like just overall?
Last year, I started hiring people 4 months in. I now have a team of 4 or 4. It depends for VAs and full time, part time. But last year, I bought 36, sold 31. I brought some inventory into this year. Okay. This year, I'm probably going to do a little bit less, but my deal size is going up. I have a few deals in the pipeline right now. That, knock on wood, if everything works out, one of them will be close to a 6-figure profit.
Wow.
And one of them could be. It's not sold yet, and it's on the market right now.
Yes,
but it could be close to a potentially a $250,000 profit.
Yeah, man. I mean, I know it's saying you can't go spending that money before you make it. I've been in the game long enough to know that too. So now, of course, I know that there's several questions that pop up as you talk and go through and look at various scenarios and so on and so forth. But your one thing that I have ran into, at least over the years, is the quality of data. You had mentioned data tree. Yeah. What do you, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think is the quality of that data? Obviously, you're still using them, so it must be fairly decent. But have you? Obviously, the better the data, the more expensive it is too. Just like anything else, I mean, you get what you pay for. But what's the data is just really difficult.
Yeah. So a few things with that. One, data tree data is quite good. It also has a lot of vacant land data. There are other ones that have like PropStream and other ones that are cheaper, but their data isn't very good for vacant land. Okay. So I have to find vacant land stuff. Like I cannot, in my current system, I cannot cross-reference individual demographics with my data. Like ListSource, you can cross-reference age, but you can't with vacant land because it's based on the mailing address and the situs address being something completely different. Yeah. It just throws it all off. Now, I do, and I'm trying, that's what I can do. I was thinking of something to hire my brother for, and I'm going to hire him to make that program. Anyways, I do have my team, side note, I do have a VA team who I give my data to. So I'll do a poll, 15,000 units. Okay? Whatever. Pull them all, get them all down there. Then I've made, of course, no surprise, video trainings from what you've seen on my Trello board. Video trainings and some educational stuff and criteria and a few Excel tools. And they will go through and they will look at every single piece of data. And I have 4 different criteria by which a piece of data could get killed off that list.
Okay.
So then they will scrub out about, on average, 15% to 20% of that bad data from data tree. So it's a manual process. I want my brother to eventually build a program to where we could just click a button and then we could see a screenshot of every single property. Yep. That way the ones that are 10 feet wide by 1,000 feet long that show up as,
get filtered out.
Yeah. So we can filter all those out quicker. Right now they're doing it by hand, but they filter out enough pieces of data. I pay them $4 an hour.
Yep.
They filter out enough pieces of data to save me about $10 an hour in mail.
Yep.
So it works out. And mentally you have to get past that because all you're seeing is you're spending money and you're still sending mail to make money. Yep. But my team doesn't deal with, like, for the most part, really crappy, weird pieces of land that come back because the data is all janky. Or in Ohio, in some areas, they for some towns they will pre-plot all of like the main downtown.
Yeah.
And so you'll have one building, but it'll be on 4 individual APN lots.
Yeah.
One of those will be the house. The other 3 will show up as vacant land, even though they're under the house.
Yeah.
That's just how the county does it. So,
wow, interesting.
Yeah, so I clean my data to make it better.
And I realized that too. As my audience is very well aware, the real estate sales business is where I started several years ago, and so what I did in 2008, which was right before the first bust, and of course, I'll if any real estate agents are out there listening, you need to use this or think about this anyway. But what I did is I went to my local tax office, and I thought, I said, okay, they let you reference out, and you can cross reference and get a curated list of whatever you want. And the thing I learned about the tax office was that data, those people are going to get that property tax bill. Somebody somewhere that is related to or the owner of that property is going to get that property tax bill. And if not, the property tax office is going to get it returned. And then so I went down there and I said, okay, I want to buy a list of everybody that owns property, and we live in a Christian county. I want to buy a list of everybody that owns a piece of property in Christian County that does not receive their tax bill in Christian County.
Hi, this is Casey Brown, host of the Cash Flow Pro podcast and YouTube channel. Have you been thinking about investing in real estate but just don't know where to begin? I'd like to help by inviting you to check out our website at www.3000capital.com. There you will find an array of material that will help you learn all about real estate syndication. And while you're there, be sure to check out our free video series download titled 5 Must-Know Keys to Success in Passive Real Estate Investing. I'd also like to personally thank you for making Cash Flow Pro part of your day. Now, back to the show.
So they might own a piece of property here, but essentially that filtered out, that was the absentee owner list before the absentee owner list was cool. This is 15 years ago. Then from there, go through a process where you just manually mail them out letters, and they get a letter, and you ran into people. Well, yeah, mom passed away a couple months ago. We've been thinking about selling. We didn't realize the market was this high. We didn't realize this, that, or the other, and now we'll sell. And so when you really start coming down and curating that data and saying, okay, you might, I think it was the first mail out I ever sent, the stamps were like 40 cents. I don't remember what they were in 08, but they were something like that. And so I mailed out like 1,500 letters. So I'm into it, $600 in postage, probably another 600 in stamp or in labor, envelopes, paper, printer, so on. Okay. So I'm into it for just call it $1,000, and the first call I get the day the letters go out is a lady that has a 150-acre tract of land that joins a Walmart distribution center. Now, obviously, if Walmart distribution was going to move to expand, they would have contacted her. Nevertheless, what it boils down to is within 45 days of me mailing this letter, I was at an attorney's office closing a 150-acre tract of ground for $750,000 at a 6% commission. So what I'm getting at is whether anybody wants to believe it or not, everybody can talk about APIs. They can talk about input forms. They can talk about newsletter signups. They can talk about all of this, whatever internet stuff they want to talk about. But I'm telling you, when a person actually sits down at that dinner table and slides their finger through that envelope and pulls your curated letter out that says, "Dear Mr. Jones, I'm interested in buying your piece of land," it changes the game. Period.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to take over what you were talking about, but when you start discussing these processes and the processes that have to happen, each step has to be curated and it has to make sense.
Yeah, you have to care about every step. So I have Sally the seller, 77-year-old Sally the seller in my head, and when I'm writing my letter, which now I use a 2-page letter. But also, here's the thing. I use a 2-page letter. I do it double-sided. So I have 4 pages of content that go to Sally the seller to help her show that, because I believe most reason why people don't want to sell to me, everyone who wants to sell to me knows about real estate agents. Some of them were former real estate agents. It's not like they don't know that they exist. There's a reason why they want to sell to me, and I think they're most concerned about, am I a scam?
Yep.
So I have things in my letter I have testimonials in my letter. I have, hey, if you want references, give us a call. We'll contact you with our escrow department in that area.
Yep.
And you could talk to them. I have a guarantee in my letter. For my land letter, not for my commercial stuff because it's more expensive, but for my land letter, actually, I have it in there that the seller can cancel the contract all the way up until the day of closing.
That's right.
If they don't like me, because so many people want to do the whole lock people in, lock it down, then do all these different things. Hey, now they don't want to sell. Well, now I'm going to pressure them to do this, and that's not who I'm after. That's not Sally. Yeah. Sally's just had it forever. Her husband bought it when they went to Arizona, and they had such a great time. They're like, hey, let's buy this piece of land for $10,000 50 years ago. And now she has it, and he's passed, and her kids don't want it. She already asked all the kids, "Do you want this thing?" This is the character in my head, and all of them have said, "No, we don't want that thing. Get rid of that piece of land." And then so she has to deal with it, and so that's who I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with a person very similar to that who owns a piece of property not too far from me, in Chelan County, which hopefully, if the builder checks it out, could be a potential. If everything works out, it could be close to an $80,000 profit. But she got it in an inheritance, and she's owned it for 9 years, and she's never thought about it, and she got my letter, and she's like, well, why not?
Why not? And let's put what I can put in my pocket right now, and let's go on and let somebody else deal with the headache of rezoning or the headache of whatever.
We're just selling. Finding an agent that will call you back for not a giant piece of land, for a small piece of land. And also with letters, my current deal rate is one purchase deal out of 2,200 letters.
So but 2,200 letters at 50 cents a stamp, another 25 cents a letter, 70. So you're talking $1,500. Basically, you're getting a purchase that makes, even if it makes 10 grand. I mean, you're 5 times in your money.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy with those numbers. My current bottleneck is my acquisitions person, which she's doing absolutely great. But then I just got to do I want to hire someone else? But so that's what I'm maxed out on pretty much my letters I could send, and I just do it all through what do I use? Rocket Print, or it's called Postcard Mania. Yeah. And they do bulk stuff really nice and cheap. I buy a package of 120,000 letters at the start of the year, and I'm just working my way down 10,000 at a time. I send them a template, and I send them an Excel spreadsheet.
Boom.
And that's it. I don't lick a stamp or lick an envelope or any of that stuff.
Yeah. So real quick, we're kind of running out of time, but tell us just a little bit about Investments Crafted and what you've got. I know obviously we're in the land flipping business, but as far as setting up, you're kind of on the cusp here of setting up a fund and kind of getting going with that.
Yeah, thanks. So Investments Crafted is it's kind of an homage to I had a video business called Videos Crafted. So Investments Crafted, kind of a little homage to that. Sure. So I do a lot of different things. I'm doing land. I'm doing direct to mail for commercial stuff and starting to get that going. I have a lot of mentors in that space. And then also I know people in the land space who have deals. So Investments Crafted is a 506c fund, which means I can only take accredited investors, but it allows me to advertise, which is great because I also plan on doing direct to mail to certain zip codes who are local to me, so then I could potentially get investors for that. So basically anything I try to do, I want to be able to use a lot of data and then direct mail or some sort of mass outreach method to then be able to talk to those people. So that's what Investments Crafted did. Primarily, it's going to be a debt fund. I might have some equity offerings, but primarily debt I feel more comfortable with. It lowers the risk for the investor. Typically, also lowers the reward too. Because risk and reward are related in there.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, right now, I have a lot of private lenders on my land deals, but I'm starting to take down bigger land deals.
Yeah.
There's one, that's going to be about a 220 purchase that we just
Yeah.
had a photographer go out to. Oh, and by the way, I used to go out to the properties locally my first year, but I don't even really go out to my properties, even if they're local.
Yeah.
If they're in my same county or 2 hours away, I typically don't go out because there's not much more I'm going to get from going out there. So
Because you've got all the analysis right there in front of you as to what all is available and so on. So anyway, well, good, man. Man, that's awesome. I mean, what a business plan. I mean, all together, and so many moving parts, but yet it all comes down to the nucleus of that letter and just creating that person to take enough action to call you or call your acquisitions person and whatnot. So, well, Tim, first off, I want to thank you for everything you've dropped here today, and I hope that the listener has gotten some value out of what you've brought. But real quick, how can the listeners reach out to you if if they want to find out more about your firm, or maybe somebody's listening that grandmother has a piece of property they want to sell, or whatever the case may be? How can a listener reach out to you and get in touch and learn more?
yeah, so the easiest way would simply be just my website, investmentscrafted.com, investments with an S.
Okay.
And then my email is info at investmentscrafted.
Cool.
And that's pretty much the easiest way there. I keep my other brands kind of, specific for my letter.
Sure.
But yeah.
Well, awesome, Tim. Well, thank you so much. Again, we really appreciate everything you dropped here today, and we want to thank the listeners for carving out a little bit of your time to sit and listen to Tim and I jabber about land acquisitions, which sometimes can be painful, sometimes they can be very profitable. So anyway, Tim, thank you, sir. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Casey.
Yes, sir.
Cashflow Pro is hosted by Casey Brown, founder and CEO of 3000 Capital, a commercial real estate investment firm committed to providing its investors with ongoing cash flow and helping them build long-term wealth. If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll be notified about all our future episodes. You can find more information about us and our investment philosophy by clicking the link in the show notes below. Thanks for listening.